I know knowledge is at your fingertips more now than ever in the history of, the rock that we're on. You could just go and learn. You could probably, if you wanted to and dedicated you could know more about law than some of the lawyers that are out there if you really wanted to. But you can't practice without that cert, and there are these barriers to entry where you need that education. If that's not the case, and that's a rare case in my at least engagement with the military community, that might be 1 in 50 or so that say, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be this type of scientist. I want to be this engineer, or I want to be able to, an architect that stamps the electrical. Okay, you need a piece of paper for that. I get it. The other 49 of those 50 should at least take a run at maybe like a degree-free path, or a certification type of path, or a trade type of path to get to where they want to be. There are so many ins now into these companies, into these industries. You look at just entry level inside sales. You look at the kid we have at UPS. You look at just, there's so many entry points that you would be remiss. You would look back. I can almost guarantee you'll look back and say, I should have been doing that.
Aloha, folks, and welcome back to Degree Free. I am super excited today to have our guest, Milo Speranzo, on with us. Milo, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, of course, Ryan. Thank you. I first became aware of the podcast via just chance on TikTok, of all places. And then I listened to a couple here over the past month or so. I think what you're doing, you and Hannah, it is invaluable. So I absolutely love it. And it's something that not only I believe in, I've preached a bit to some of my veteran counterparts over the past, it's 15 years now or so.
Amazing. And, thank you for those kind words. But, it's so funny. Like, you talk about being aware of our podcast from TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok has been the best networking, quote unquote network. Everybody talking about building their network and everything like that. It has been the best networking tool that Hannah or myself have ever have. And I kind of tell this story. There's this one time that I went to a networking event and I said, I'll never go back. And it's just like, I'll never go back. Like just to
I've done that. I've done that. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe to a conference. Okay. And then where you network at a conference where like people are speaking about things that are relevant, like to a podcasting conference for one, I'm a professional podcaster. This is what I do. Yep. Maybe, I'll learn something, but I went to this one networking event, like strictly networking, and I was a young entrepreneur. So was Hannah. We were running a tattoo business at the time. And we don't really talk about this much on this podcast, which is interesting. We were running like a very specialized tattoo business, and we didn't have any entrepreneur friends. And we were about a year into it. And we go there and we show up and everybody is just focused on how they can get something out of the other person.
100%.
Right. And, mainly we were there just so that we could meet friends.
Yeah.
Like mainly so that we could we were working 100-hour weeks and we were like, God, I don't have anybody in my life that's like this. And, but anyway, everybody there was like a digital marketer, and they all everybody except for Hannah and myself were like doing digital marketing agencies. And so Hannah and I were the only people that were doing something that wasn't digital marketing. And so they just, latched on like sharks.
No, I early on, and the good news is, I don't know, maybe your listeners will find value in this, but I have made so many bad decisions. It's been great though for me. It has been like one dumb thing after another for like 5 years. And I learned so much through that process that one, hopefully, the listeners can take something from that. But two, I started with those networking events too. And it was, young professionals or this or that, whatever it was. I went out and I tried to build a network. It caused more churn, frankly. I mean, and I'm sure there are some out there that are absolutely amazing and somebody's cracked the code. And it's like, you go to this conference and you'll take whatever you're doing specifically to the next level. But for me, I went to build relationships. And the only relationships that I could build were ones that were artificial. People were trying to sell me services. They were trying to, it was like poachers almost. It felt really like, oh, there's people here selling to me. Hey, come and do this. Come and join this program, get this certification, join this network, which is like a paid network to, meet all of the local whomever in your geo. So I've had a very similar experience, and I could say that that's one area. And like I said, not to be general, I hate generalizing things, but I look back through my LinkedIn connections here occasionally. I don't have anyone in there from the networking event days. Everybody has been grown fairly organically and through other methods.
Absolutely. And we talk about it like my network has grown much more. One, by doing two things. One, doing something in public. And that's going to be like, whether it was my tattoo studio or this podcast, right? Like doing something in public where I'm making it aware to other people that this is what I'm doing. And then the second is providing value to other people, right? And it could be something as simple as like you and I, like value is you and I align on something where we think that people do not necessarily need college degrees to have a successful career and to, quote unquote, make it, success is such a difficult word because it means so many things to different people, but
absolutely.
You don't need that. And so it could just be providing a quote unquote platform for like-minded people to come on and just kind of express, your stories and stuff like that. It could be as simple as that.
I can't agree with you more. I didn't brand this. I'm a marketer at heart. So I currently work for Dell Technologies. I've been there for about 5 years now. And it's absolutely wonderful company. And we do a lot of, let's call it, they have their own, like all companies, they have their own languages. But in marketing, top of the funnel, and you on the podcast, you talk about marketing a lot. So, there's this top of the funnel awareness, and I preach this to the vets that I work with, and having that awareness is the absolute key to building the network. And it's after, and I think we could probably take a step back and talk about how to introduce yourself into different environments, but ever since I was in the Air Force for 14 years. And I always, for some reason, I just was one of those guys that just liked to build relationships. I just liked to, I didn't want to be bored. It was very self-serving. It was like, I started off as an aircraft mechanic. And it was like, all right, well, I don't want to change, an oil filter today. What can I volunteer for that'll get me out of this work? Very self-serving stuff, but lessons learned through that. So, it's, what do you want to be? Do you want to be the door guard today at the command post? Do you want to go pick up this dignitary at the airport? I'll do that. I'll do, volunteer for one. My value to the organization with just doing these little side roles increased more than you could ever imagine. All of a sudden, I'm like the go-to for random things. I'm the only guy. The one guy retires. I'm the only guy that knows how to go and pick up the general in the right manner. So, I'm that guy. But from a network perspective, I've always been relationship driven. I've always, certainly engaged the people that I work with and my near network. It didn't explode until I did this, kind of top of funnel awareness, like 2 inches deep across the broader, whatever that organization is, the company, the military base, the Air Force Command, whatever that is. But I would say in the matter of the first 6 years was kind of heads down. After that, my network increased. I can't even quantify it. Maybe 100-fold in the following 5 years after that. And then that started like this ball rolling of, wow, you know what? I'm starting to see some things that I really enjoy. I want to dig deeper into this. Maybe I'll take a side project. Maybe I'll do a stretch project, or whatever corporate calls it today. Get a mentoring, get a formal mentor-mentee relationship. Whatever that is, that awareness piece was so key for me to be successful in any way, in any form, military, personal life even, and then certainly in the corporate world today. It's just been a godsend.
I kind of wanted to take a couple steps back, and I definitely want to get to actually what you do in your job and all of that. But since we're kind of pulling at this thread, I wouldn't mind pulling a little bit more, but just to kind of go back and define some of the terms that we were talking about here for some of the viewers. We were talking about top of funnel awareness, and, for most of the people listening to this, they're not marketers, and, they don't understand what that is. Could you explain a little bit about what you mean, especially when it means from a personal brand perspective, or like that's a new agey word, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, and in marketing, it's going to be different than a personal, kind of brand piece. In marketing, top of the funnel is where you start. It's broad communication. It's email blast. It's whatever, and then you work your customers down the funnel into a more one-to-one relationship to sell X or Y. Or there's transactional buyers that buy at the top of the funnel. Lots of things. Personal brand wise, I consider top of the funnel the initial relationship building. They say you're better off being, and this isn't like the jack of trades, master of none, but it's the 2 inches deep in a very broad subject set is what you're trying to do with your network. You want to build the numbers, the quantity, top of the funnel. And then from the top of the funnel, you have, let's say, you build 15 new relationships, and that'll be targeted. So, maybe you are really interested in marketing. So you build these 15 relationships with people that are some sort of marketing, whatever it is, like a PR person here, a communications person, somebody that knows Google ads, and that's their specialty, whatever that is. And then from there, you really want to start to work your way down the funnel from a relationship and a career perspective. What are you really interested in? Is it the comms portion? Is it the PR? Is it the public relations? What is it? But that first layer, that pool, that network, top of funnel network is so important from a success matrix as you start to work down that funnel. So it was probably a convoluted way to describe it. I apologize, but it's that first level.
I completely agree with you. And one of the interesting things is the broader that you make that, the better chances. And I guess this sounds bad because it's all about like what you're getting out of your network, but let's just be selfish for a second and think about what you would get out of your network. And if you are to make it broad in all of these different fields and different industries, especially professionally, one of the things that's well known is that you don't get jobs and work from your first degree connections. You get them from your second degree connections. So now that you and I are a first degree connection, maybe somebody that is going to refer me to a job or something like that. And that is huge when you think of it like that, because if you can make a lot of first degree connections, then you've exponentially increased the amount of people that statistically will get you your next job.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's, I mean, that, the quality and quantity of those top of funnel connections really lends itself to so much goodness as you go forward. I mean, and depending on, and you said, not to be kind of self-serving, what can you get out of, if you're doing this right, your connections will garner as much value out of you as you do them. So I have a lot of folks that go in and they feel that way. They feel like, I'm just trying to, I feel weird. I feel sleazy. I'm trying to no, you're not. Listen, they're going to ask you for something. They're going to use your second degree connections. They're going to find value in, we're all very unique, not just people, but our journeys are unique. And tattoo, we talked about tattoo shops earlier. I know some great tattoo artists here in Pittsburgh, and that has zero to do with what we're talking about. But if you ever, that's a second degree connection, and they're going to find the value, your network, even the top of the funnel, network that you have is going to find value in you. So you're in there providing a service, and you also got to pull that value out of them as well. So never think of it as self-serving. It's a very symbiotic relationship, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we kind of started there, because one of the most commented or email inbound that we get is like, you guys keep talking about how 40 to 80% of jobs are filled informally, like through your network. How do I build my network? It's like one of the biggest questions that we get. And it's honestly one of the hardest ones to answer, because it can be
Yeah.
difficult. It can be
Oh,
difficult.
I think it's, and that percentage, I can't agree more, and I think it probably leans more towards the 80% is filled, but it's also filled, when you talk about that, it's different levels. So a lot of those roles are filled, it's the network, it's the who but it's when you're already inside of the organization. So, for instance, at Dell, you have to have an IDP, like an individual development plan, and people look at it, you build a network off of it. It's a tool that you use. And they're proud. We are proud that, a lot of the positions we have open are really, I don't want to say predetermined because they're not. There's a rigorous, obviously interview process and everything else. But that manager knows that if there's somebody in an adjacent organization or outside, that they have an interest in this. They know because of this individual development plan. So, that's I do believe that percentage, and I think there's a way to get from point A to where you want to be. And even if it's kind of let's call it not a straight line. And I would say most of the time, especially for the veterans that I work with, it is hardly ever a straight line from this is what I figured out I really want it to be. All right, go do this completely different thing in an organization where you can build that network and make your way to, your dream job in a lot of cases. And it works, and it really does work. But at the beginning stages, it's top of the funnel, how you get in, who you know. There's also some tactics, digital certifications. And I think you mentioned it in maybe one of your past podcasts, and I've never branded it this way, but it's like looking for a job backwards. I think you said that is, I've never called it that. So I'm going to steal that if you don't mind. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's where we start. That's where we start in many, many cases. And we look at their goals. We look at the veteran's goals or non-veteran. It's the same for both. And then how do we get them into maybe the field they want? Is it medical? Are they into healthcare? Are they into tech? Are they into, go through the list. And then how do we build their network and also give them that, maybe that digital cert that they need, that they're already looking for. They already have 10,000 Salesforce licenses. So we want to get you an inside sales, go get a Salesforce cert, come back, you're a no-brainer. And then when you're in inside sales, which is a great entry point, look at the marketing, build some relationships, do some stretch projects with the marketing team if that's where you end up wanting to be. But it is who you know, and that network is infinitely important. You're right.
Yeah. And just for those listeners that don't know what we're talking about as far as looking for a job backwards, it's basically, just to put it simply, it's basically starting at the end. And so it's thinking about what job that you want to have. And then, like, let's say you want to be a phlebotomist. That's the type of person that you go when you need to get your blood drawn, and she or he draws the blood. You're going to go and look up phlebotomist on Indeed or your favorite job site, and you're going to look through all the different certifications that they need. And you're like, oh, I just need a 2-week course at my local community college. And now you go and get that, and you go and apply. Okay, maybe it says that 2-week course wasn't enough after you've gotten that certification. Then get the next one that it says, and then go apply to more jobs. And that's very simply that's what it means, just for those listening.
Yeah.
And Milo, I kind of wanted to backtrack and talk about, you mentioned that you work at Dell Technologies.
Yep.
Would you mind telling us your role there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came into Dell about 5 years ago, and I was through my military public sector background, and this was my start. This was kind of like my in. I took what I had and the skill sets that I had and that I knew, and I've always wanted to be in marketing, but I started in sales. So I went essentially from government life to inside sales, government sales. And then from there, it was, how do I get into, I always wanted to be marketing. I'm a big relationship guy. That is marketing. It's building relationships, just not just for yourself and the company, but for your stakeholders. So being able to foster a relationship between this, sales guy or saleswoman who owns a region, and then bringing a potential customer to them in a meaningful way, and it's really rewarding for me. So I loved marketing, and I worked through kind of the IT side of the house in sales, and eventually took a job at Dell in their public sector marketing department. And from there, all of the tactics I think that we talk about progressed me into a senior director role. So from manager to director to senior director. And I now have North America field marketing responsibilities, so channel and partner. So it's been widely. My scope has grown significantly over the past 4 years, but it's exactly what I've wanted. I mean, that is what I want. So I focus on North America, which includes Canada, obviously, and channel marketing, public sector vertical marketing, specialty sales, which is our kind of let's call it specialty routes to market. So through education and our communities we have built and marketing directly to them. But yeah, Dell for 5 years, and I couldn't be happier. This isn't a commercial for Dell, but it's a great company. I would tell you if it wasn't, I promise.
And for those listening, marketing is one of the number one industries that people want to get into. And I'm not really sure. Maybe you can give some insight into that. Maybe I think it has to do with the allure of storytelling and getting people to take action on something, but not having to directly be the person give me that money, and being sales. But what I wanted to ask though too, as a follow-up to that thought, was it's kind of my job to know what every job is. And what we say here is, if you don't know the jobs that are out there, how can you get a target for it? So what does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah. So I have a team of it varies here daily. The job market is tough. So we're hiring and people are going other roles, but 50 or so marketers. And the day-to-day really includes working in a massively matrixed organization. So Dell it's big. It's 100,000 employees. It's every country you can imagine, 90 billion plus a year, and everybody is in pockets and they all do their things. So we have a full stack of IT solutions. So you got, your laptops, then you got your servers, then you got all this stuff. And everybody has their own, let's call it, their own value props, their own messaging, their own decision makers that they have to target. So you have some like the laptops, and we're going after students, and it's buy Dell. This is great. So we work, and then you got servers and storage, and it's hey, this is the CIO we're looking at, or whomever, one of the engineers. So we spend our days working twofold, working with the product teams and taking what they have. This server is the new 16G edge enabled, blah, 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 whatever nonsense, product nonsense. Okay, let's make that marketing team, my team, let's make that not only understandable, but intriguing to our potential customers. So we do a lot of different things. We map personas. Personas is a big one. Like I said, it's the laptops, even our laptops in the range there. Students like some of them, the creatives, the people that love the art, they like different ones. Gamers, we have Alienware, the Alienware brand. They like something totally different, So who is your persona and what do they actually care about? So it's this deep dive from a marketing perspective into different personas and what's going to make them, what's of value. You have to bring value. You can't just bring, this is the coolest thing. We're going to get you so excited. Here's our jingle. Here's our celebrity spokesperson. Buy this. There actually has to be value because those customers have to grow into brand loyalists. And that's the key. That really is the key. So our goal is to make brand loyalists out of all of our potential, let's say customers out there. And then from a customer set, like I said, it's everything from students to, Lockheed Martin and these enterprise level massive companies to small businesses just starting up to whomever. But we have to figure out a way as marketers to build that great technical messaging into something they understand, they'll see value in, and then we have to deliver it to them. And then when we deliver it to them, you have this journey that's everybody in marketing talks about the customer journey, from awareness, top of the funnel, all the way to purchase and then post-purchase. What do we do with you afterwards? We can't just be like, good luck. We have an entire post-purchase marketing journey too. So we look a lot at psychology, which is really fun. We look at, what are our personas, our potential customers interested in? What do they like? What do they want to see? Do they enjoy meeting with the salesperson, or are they intimidated by salespeople? If they are, let's do something virtual. Let's do, there's all these tactical marketing outlets that you can do. And that's what we spend our day doing. Looking at the new products, the cool new Dell, the new tech stuff that's out there, what our competitors are doing, and then what we can do to best position our gadgets, our stuff, our services, or whatever in the most relevant, meaningful way to our customers. That was a long definition. I'm sorry. I kind of went off on a marketing tangent.
That is great. That's exactly what I wanted. And I'm wondering, for you guys at Dell, or even for your personal job, how much of it is metrics based versus qualitative?
Yeah, it is KPIs, the key performance indicators for the team, for everybody listening. That acronyms kind of drive me crazy from the military. You gotta spell them out for people. But the key performance indicators is, you can't go a meeting at Dell without talking about what the KPI is, or ROI, return on investment, or whatever, let's call it measuring metric we're going to use for this specific project engagement. This is really good for the veteran community. So the veteran community, not to go back on the vet side, but they come in, and for vets, there's some very specific value props that you bring because of what you've done in the past. Even no matter what your role is in the military, you come in being able to, attention to detail. It's recognized immediately inside of corporate space. You would be shocked at how fast, and they'll say it different ways. Wow, I can't believe you caught that. Yes, you're right. That piece. So that attention to detail is immediately recognized and helps a vet. But also the ability to measure success, KPIs. That is second nature for a lot of the veterans coming out. There's success metrics. And in marketing for us, you got everything. You got margin gearing. How much margin are we making based off of a specific event? But high level pipeline. What leads? How many leads? How many people joined that webinar that we put on? 150 registered, and only 30 people showed up. And of that, we only got 7 leads. Okay, not a good one. Another one, 150 people showed up. And then you start to benchmark, and this is where kind of that tech cert piece of it comes in a little bit. But if you're like a power user in Salesforce, for instance, and you know how to build the reports, and you can track, and you use Marketing Cloud, holy smoke, you pick your job wherever you want to go. I mean, just do those reports, the analytics of it. But yeah, I would say we probably have 20 key metrics that we use depending on the marketing activity, with pipeline being a top one, lead generation, demand generation, and then obviously revenue and return based off of whatever the activity was.
One of the things that I really love about this conversation, I hope that people can get away from, is there's a lot of similarities between like marketing for business, whether you're trying to get people to buy your product, or marketing when you're trying to get a job, right? Like it's the same exact thing. And everything that you were saying earlier about, personas and what value you bring, and just being able to then do that analysis, whether it is in an interview, or whether it's through your resume or video pitch or whatever it is. You can see, okay, I'm going to sit across from Ryan today. I'm going to sit across from Milo today. And you do a little bit of research about what they do. And then you speak, and I'm doing a customer service role. And so you speak about how you can bring value to that customer service role. And I think everything that you touched on is really valuable for people to bring in, even if they're not marketers by trade, or not trying to be,
No. And I think, we have a lot of success stories I don't have an organization. I just consider it's like the royal we. It's me and everybody that I've worked with, my vet friends. It's just everybody. But we have a lot of success stories where let's say this goes back to the kind of backwards look into finding a role. They don't know what they want to do necessarily, and we get that a lot because I was command and control in the Air Force. My first 6 years was I was an aircraft mechanic. And then I went into command and control and intelligence at the Air Force. And then when I left, essentially those skills don't translate. There's no, there's no directing a medevac operation in downtown Pittsburgh. It's like, okay, I could be, but a lot of friends will go, they'll be public security, they'll be police officers, whatever that may be, which is awesome. But for me, it didn't translate necessarily into what I enjoyed. And you see that a lot, not just with vets, but with, 2 years into a college degree and maybe they're not feeling it, or it's like, holy, or somebody that's, that's been a teacher for 10 years and they're just like, it's time for a career change. No matter what that is, you have this inflection point where you're about to it takes a lot of guts, but you want to be happy and you want to make that transition. And we have, a lot of our folks look at not job specific, but industry specific. So we had a young lady who she wanted to be in the healthcare field. She wanted to be in something in healthcare. She loved exercise. She was trainer work, all this stuff. We said, all right, well, let's get you there. We looked backwards. We said, okay, this, we looked at the companies that are hiring. And at the time, Peloton was one of them. And they needed essentially, a programmer type of certification. It was very entry level. And we got her into a 15-week course that taught like SQL and CSS, whatever the languages were, just basic languages. She got in with that company and with Peloton and has since skyrocketed through the company. I mean, she's, now she's out there presenting on behalf of Peloton. She's a thought leader in the physiology and exercise space. She was a personnel person inside of the military, and then coming out, completely different career field. But if you have that passion for an industry, you can get into it, and then from there, figure out what your dream job is in the industry. She doesn't do coding anymore. She's in public relations now. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened. It's just like a fairy tale. But sometimes backing just into that one segment. I want to be in healthcare. I want to be in medical. I want to be in public safety. I want to, whatever it is, get there, get your foot in the door, and then build that network.
Totally. And, off air, if you don't want to dox this person, I would very much like to meet this lady.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She is wonderful.
If we could connect. Yeah. That would be fantastic. I would love to hear her story. And the second thing is, I have a friend very similar to this. I never talked about him. He's actually a really good friend of mine. He was a marine biologist by major, and then he actually did it by trade as well. We were in Hawaii at the time, and he was just sick of it. The marine biology doesn't pay a lot, and he wanted to get into tech. And so what he did is pretty much the exact same thing. He kind of found a job backwards, looked at what was in demand. He took a 16-week boot camp to learn how to code, just the basic languages, exactly what you said. I think it was actually mostly just Python. And he ended up getting a job at Meta, well, Facebook at the time.
Yep.
And he got a job at Facebook, and he was working on the Oculus devices. He's like, I don't really like this. This isn't really what I want to do. But, fast forward 2-3 years later, he's now working at a completely different firm in the tech space as the procurement director, manager,
Exactly.
and that's a lot of people think that okay, so if I start with the Salesforce like certification, I'm just using Salesforce since we used it already. If I start with this one cert, then I have to be an admin forever.
No.
Right? But it's just your foot in the door. It's just that transition out of whatever it is that you're doing right now, and then it's much easier to connect the dots once you're in there, as you've said.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the other, I guess, lever that that veterans have to pull is that they're veterans. So there's some, I don't want to say that there's some well-earned preferential treatment with, let's say government jobs, for instance, for veterans, as well as state and local jobs. You'll get veterans preference if you do want to be a public safety officer. Also with government contractors, like the big folks like Lockheed and Booz Allen and General Dynamics and those teams. So and that's the key. It's taking the leap and doing something that might not necessarily be your dream job or or even, I hate to say it this way because it never ends up this way. It never ends up, just do something for a couple years that you don't want to do. But when they do it, they never end up being miserable ever, like ever. I mean, even if it's coding and it's like, oh my God, I can't, go get a cybersecurity, 15-week cert and work at a help desk or do whatever. I know it sounds miserable, maybe, but I bet you it won't be. I bet you're going to be excited. Then you're going to start to get excited about the politics of whatever company you're in. And it's not, politics is a bad word for us today, but realistically, whenever you're inside these big matrix orgs, you see all these different divisions and you'll find things and you'll get excited. Your day job will be secondary to you as you go through and figure out what you want your next steps to be. You'll be excited. And I love the people that come in with degrees are awesome. I'm not being disparaging to them at all. But they go through this same thing as well, because I would say that, even our vets with degrees, 90% of them, I mean, that's obviously an informal study of my network, but they're doing something completely outside of whatever degree that they attained. So it is taking that leap, being confident in yourself, knowing there's an end goal, and building that network and going after it. It really does work. Degree free, it does work.
Yeah. Thanks. Absolutely. One of the things that I'm just giddy right now because you said do something for a couple of years that you don't want to do, and it's like, that is so refreshing because and I'm even guilty of this myself sometimes, be like, oh, do the things that you want to love. Like do things that you love, right? Like that's what you hear. And do things that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's like, all right. I think that can be true, definitely. But I think for the majority of people out there, especially the ones that are listening to this podcast, it's like doing the things that I love aren't going to pay the bills right this second.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Like I might love to do this podcast, right? But like, if it's not paying the bills, like, I got to go get a job. Right. And so it's useful to a point. I think it's very useful if you're thinking about like from an entrepreneur's standpoint. I think like, for entrepreneurs, most people are going to work, 60 to 100 hours a week, 7 days a week for 5 years, and it's probably going to fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so if you're going to go that route, which a lot of degree-free people do, like, okay, then you probably want to at least enjoy the work, or at least not hate it that much. But if you're going to go and take the career path, which is what most people do, suck it up. And like, well, a common one that we hear is I have no soft skills. I have zero soft skills. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't want to talk to people. What's a job that I can do? And it's just like
easy.
What is it? What is it?
Listen, I mean, there are infinite jobs that don't require soft skills these days, especially in the remote workforce. And I understand that. I mean, and we deal with them constantly. And it's, and it does get into that IT space. There's a lot of those IT technical roles. I mean, there's even, there are logistics roles. So, when we look at supply chain and logistics, and let's call it maybe the operations side of the house. You can look at we have a great. I have a guy now. He's at UPS. He's doing logistics. He wants to eventually be a supply chain. He wants to go into the supply chain side. I don't want to say he doesn't have soft skills, but he doesn't want to. He's not keen on exercising soft skills. He's very analytical person. He loves to do research on things. Like, that's his deal. And so we said, all right, let's get you in a loading dock at UPS, and we're going to start you there, and then we're going to show you how to build your network and get you over into the supply chain operations logistics side of the house, where you're going to be right where you want. He's a young guy. So he started that at 22. He's now 24. He's supervising at the loading dock. He's making $55,000, bought a little starter house. He's got a line of sight into the exact division he wants to be in. It might take him a couple more years, but he is going to be in that, non-soft skill needed role, any month now. And he thought he was going to hate throw. He doesn't. He loves that job. I don't know that he's even going to leave, to be completely honest, because he ended up, this job is going to make me miserable. I'm going to be there on a midnight shift. I'm going to be loading packages. But he got so excited about the opportunities and what the future looked like at UPS, and I could move to, he has a city that he might want to move to. I think it's Memphis or wherever it is. But he has not been miserable one day in that role. And he's positioned himself without the soft skills to be in an operations role. But that operations side, tech side, I think it's a no-brainer if you don't necessarily enjoy building relationships, being in front of people, doing that, soft stuff on a daily basis.
That's awesome. I am going to steal that, because normally what I say to people is very much not as helpful as what you just did, which is actually give an answer.
I don't believe
well, like I usually say, like, hey, in not so many words, like, suck it up, buttercup. Like, you've got to, like, your career is going to be helped by learning soft skills, at least just a little bit.
That's true. That is true.
Like,
you're right.
Like, even the smartest engineers in the world, well, maybe not like the top 10 or something like that, they can be, but for majority of the people out there, you're still going to have to be, people are going to want to work with you, or you're going to have to make them like you in some way, and soft skills help that. I wanted to transition though, and we've talked a lot about veterans and the military. I kind of wanted to head in that direction, because as we were talking offline about this, it's like one of the most common questions that we get as well is about transitioning out of the military. And, you and I both know that veterans, people that are coming out of the military, they have a lot of skills to offer. But I think one of the problems is one, companies don't know about those skills. And then two, a lot of it is that the veterans themselves don't have the confidence of, like, well, I used to bust down doors for a living, or, you know what I mean? Like, I was just a crew chief, and they're like, well, how does that relate to an office job, or how does that relate to civilian life? And, like, there's no equivalent. And so one, I guess if you wouldn't mind just going over a little bit of your military background and what you did. You kind of went over it, command and control, but maybe a little bit more, give it a little bit more color, and then kind of talk about, some options for these veterans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So from what I can tell, and obviously in the days of social media, this might not seem like the common path, because everybody makes, it's amazing, my home life's amazing, everything's kind of, I don't want to say falsified, but there's a bit of a glow to it that might not necessarily be exactly real. But from what I could tell in my life growing up and military life, I had a very, very common path, very similar to a lot of the vets that are out there. So grew up, me and my sister, no real parental unit. We had parents with some mental illness and some substance abuse issues. And we were essentially raised by family members, grandparents, for sure. So we were very lucky in that. And And I say that because one, it felt very normal. I think I only have one friend that actually had two parents. So that guy was the weirdo, Mr. Two parents guy. It's weird. But for me, this was very, very common. And as I got through later years in high school, it was that degree. I mean, that was how to do it. That was the only way. That's where everybody pushed. Like, that's the next step. Uh, Went to a state school. I was very bored in high school, to be completely honest. It wasn't something that I completely enjoyed necessarily. And I ended up with like I don't know, whatever GPA, 2.1, who knows. And I went to whatever state school would let me in. Well, I did that for a semester, and just absolutely everything that you could, all the worst case scenarios occurred. Joined a fraternity, didn't go to class, just complete nonsense. So what was great, and where I look back now and I feel, back then I felt like I was not lucky, but in real life was extremely lucky, is I had zero safety net. And sometimes that's a good thing. There was no moving back home. There was no, a pocket of money where I can rent a house for a couple months and then figure out what I want to do. That negative. It was like I had $4. So join the military. That was it. So that drove me to join the military. I did. I joined the Air Force when I was 18, and went to boot camp. And that was an example of, oh my God, I'm going to be miserable. And I don't think I was miserable for a day that I was there. So, taking that step back, but I found that's an insanely common thing that occurs, not just with military vets, but with people that go to college. Like, it is, I couldn't believe how many people were just like, I did a semester, I did a year, I did a whatever. And it's like, oh, good God. Okay. All right. So I'm not as terrible as I thought. So I progressed through the military. I learned some networking traits. We talked at top of funnel. I volunteered for some things. We did this, we did that. And then I was at an inflection point where I wanted to do something else. There was a money aspect to it. I wanted to make more money. You're very much capped in the military. You have ranks and grades, and I said, so, it's like, what do I do next? What do I do next? And that is a big moment for a lot of people. And a lot of vets have that moment, either a disabled vet that was unable to make the decision. The decision was made for them. Here's your $2,500 a month. You can't really live off of it, but it's what we're giving you. Go be great. Or somebody that's ready to make that transition out of the military. And this is where I started to get, and I say this, and once again, I don't want to paint the broad brush. I hope none of your listeners hate me for this, but it's the college factory, the education establishment preys on people like that. They prey on these, especially military men and women who have a bit of a GI Bill, who could pay. They will sit at your door when they find out you're getting out. Go do that. Come get this degree. Come get that degree. And I saw that. And I saw a lot of vets take that path and go and spend a lot of money on, whatever degree it is, and then never use it. And so that's what made me passionate about, one, working with vets. And I've done that for a while, and, volunteer spots, and like Wounded Warrior Foundation is amazing. And, it's the USO is an awesome organization. I was on the board over there for a while, but it is unethical sometimes, I think, on how they poach and what they sell. If you just dig 2 inches deep, you see the stats. You don't use your degrees. These vets can make more. You can get into a career, be making money, get free training, get to the job you want, never have to, take that pause. And those 4 years, maybe 5 years, 6 years that you miss in the workforce, in the long term, for your retirement, it's a hit at the end. That's 5 earning years that even if you were only making 40 grand, $18 an hour, $17 an hour, that's all 401k that's in there compounding, da 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 da. So, I just have a personal opinion that wasn't necessarily the right decision for all of the folks. And then that brought me from, what I'm doing there to my career path into IT, which I was really interested in. Started to work for an IT distributor, and then through the distribution, it was like, oh, I want to go work for Apple because they're super cool. But then I met Dell, and I was like, oh, Dell's cool too. I didn't really know what to do. All right, let's get over to Dell, and then so now, at Dell, and through that path, there was a lot of failures, a lot of lessons learned, but a lot of very simple things that, if the truth was being told, could definitely direct, a vet or non-vet, to be honest, just somebody that's a year after college that's like, this is crazy. I've been drinking a lot lately. I got to go do something else. Whatever it is, whatever it is. But
Yes. So just to jump in here for a second, like Hannah and I completely agree with you on the colleges prey on the ex-military people, basically, and it's like one of the things, and it's difficult for me to get up on my soapbox and have an opinion about this because I'm not a vet. I didn't enlist. I'm not in the military.
No,
That being said, like I have family members that were in, I have family members that are currently in, and like I look at them and I'd be like, you don't have to use your GI Bill. I mean, I know that that's the reason why you went. I get it, man. And I'm getting a little it sucks. You went and you did a bunch of shit, you know what I mean? You did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I can see it in your eyes when I'm telling you this, that, that hurts. And, it hurt me when I was having this conversation. And, but the truth of the matter is like exactly everything that you said. You're giving up the opportunity. Look at the opportunity cost of it, right? Like, yes, they're paying for it, and yes, you get subsidized a bit, but you can just, if you start to get work, you can make more money and be more financially, ahead, and be more financially secure because of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult for me to say that to people, but it's also difficult for people to hear.
No, I think you're right. And you have free license to use me as the guy that said it. So if you ever, from a reference perspective, but and that GI Bill doesn't pay for everything. And there's always, and then if you have a family, which so many military members come out and they have, the young family or about to have a family or about to it is, and I always say, there's some folks that come out of the military that have a very distinct idea of what they want to do, and it requires a degree. They came out and they want to be a lawyer. And it's like, listen, you're never going to, I know knowledge is at your fingertips more now than ever in the history of, the rock that we're on. You could just go and learn. You could probably, if you wanted to and dedicated you could know more about law than some of the lawyers that are out there if you really wanted to. But you can't practice without that cert, and there are these barriers to entry where you need that education. If that's not the case, and that's a rare case in my at least engagement with the military community, that might be 1 in 50 or so that say, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be this type of scientist. I want to be this engineer, or I want to be able to, an architect that stamps the, the electrical. Okay, you need a piece of paper for that. I get it. The other 49 of those 50 should at least take a run at maybe like a degree-free path. Or a certification type of path, or a trade type of path to get to where they want to be. There are so many ins now into these companies, into these industries. You look at just entry level inside sales. You look at the kid we have at UPS. You look at just, there's so many entry points that you would be remiss. You would look back. I can almost guarantee you'll look back and say, I should have been doing that. I should have been doing that, and and maybe taking these certifications. I should have been. So I'm always cognizant of the few that know exactly what they want and need that degree. And I understand, and we're going to help them get there. And we're going to teach them how to use their GI Bill efficiently. So they're not just completely, a prey to one of these schools that it's, here's your 500 a month. We'll defer X amount and you'll owe 50,000 still at the end instead of 70. But it's a great deal. It's like, no, it's not. But the majority of people would really, really benefit from not just, wealth wise, money wise, but emotionally. I mean, you're immediately contributing to military folks. A lot of them, like I said, have young families. You're immediately contributing. You don't have that. And now, psychologically, I look back and there's a lot of people that sacrifice and their spouse goes to school for something specific. They want to be a nurse and they say, all right, let's shoestring budget this sucker and get you that degree. And that's unbelievably noble. And I absolutely love it. But there's a psychological effect to that on the back end where it's like that person getting the degree, the woman, the man, whoever it is, feels like, shit, I'm not contributing. I'm not, I feel like I got this young kid at home. Emotionally, financially, just it feels different. It's a very different path in life to try to do the, degree-free path as opposed to maybe the more, I don't even want to say traditional because I don't really think it is traditional these days. It's, that other way, the other option.
I completely agree with that sentiment of calling it traditional as well. And yeah, I think what we tell people here is that actually being degree free, and I'll speak from personal experience. Like I actually have a college degree. I went for 4 years, and as soon as I got my college degree, like literally on stage, grabbed it, I realized that I was just as unemployable as I was like 10 seconds before I got this thing, and I was just like, wow, I just wasted 4 years of my life. Well, it was actually 4.5 for me, but like, and a lot of money. But what we tell people is that, being degree free isn't easy. Like it's simple. It is simple. Like, but it's not easy, like just right. Using the tips that we've talked about today and the tips that we've talked about in our podcast, like you'll be able to triangulate, what to do, figure out, get a target and then go for it. It just takes hard work, and, I wanted to ask specifically though, for those veterans and then for those spouses of veterans listening, like, what are some specific tips that you've used and that you've seen people use that are getting out and, getting placed in these, roles, entry to, mid-level roles out there? Because one of the things that I think about is, and this is from people that I've helped that were like, I used to be a firefighter EMT. And so, I've helped some EMTs and firefighters transition. And one of the things that I think about, the most useful thing is kind of just giving them the vocabulary and the confidence to say, like, here's what companies care about, and here's how your background fits that, and here's the story to tell that. Yeah. Is there something, or are there some tips like that for the military community?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. So we didn't do a prep for this, and you just kind of nailed that one. So a lot of it really is understanding. It's understanding of what's out there and the vocabulary, and everybody speaks. And we joke about this inside, Dell now. The military is terrible with acronyms in their languages. Well, corporate America is twice as bad. Do you think the 9/11th Airlift Wing has crazy acronyms? Come to a meeting at Dell and not hear 3 actual words, just acronyms and nonsense. It's crazy. So, one, having that knowledge of 2 things: what's actually out there, what's available, what the job roles entail. What is marketing? What is this? And then what are some of those, let's call it, key things, terms, languages to look for in order to kind of start your search? So when you come from the military, it's a bit different. You have, everywhere has a chain of command, but in the military, it's a very distinct chain of command. it's not. So just from an organizational structure standpoint, we typically start there. Just to be completely, transparent, it's that basic at the beginning. It's like, a vice president isn't equivalent to a colonel. It's different. It's very linear in the military, or very horizontal in the military. A general's a general. A private's a private. It's what it is. In corporate America, a director at Amazon could be the same level as a SVP, at a smaller startup. It's so looking at the org charts, figuring out, what the C-suite looks like, what the SVPs, the global roles, the North America roles, the local roles, the regional stuff. All of the organizational structure is where we typically start. And you could do that. Like, you can get that info online, and we'll typically, send some web pages over. But that's important. And it's important because they have to know what their targets are. They have to know, what does an inside sales rep do? What does somebody in a call center do? What's the difference between an ISM, an inside sales manager, an inside sales lead, an inside sales? Because you got to know what your first target should be. And then from there, we do try to train in the vocabulary. So we look at some of the tech pieces. And if we say, you have somebody that really wants to get into the medical field, they're super interested in medical and science and longevity. We have somebody that loves longevity now. He's taught me about telomeres, which are like things in your brain that if they stay long, you live forever or something like that. I don't know what it is. But so he loves that stuff. So we got him an inside sales role at a firm that's doing some, it's not longevity. It's like Respironics. It's like maybe CPAP, stuff like that. But it's an inside sales role. And we explained to him, okay, here's how this works. They're going to expect this from you, 50 calls a day, whatever it is. Oh my God, once again, it's going to be terrible. No, it's not. Salesforce, they use Salesforce here, or they use Freshworks, or they use whatever. Go through the list at this company, and they're looking for somebody that has like 1 to 2 years experience, that has sales. Grab this Salesforce cert. Here's a free one. Or if it's a Google cert, I don't know what Google charges these days. It's like $50 or something.
Yeah, it's like $39. They've teamed up with Coursera. It's like $39 a month until you get your cert.
Yeah, and then there's some out there that are free. Get that cert so you look good on the resume. Military, highlight all of your. We can have a 23-year-old that led a battalion of 30 people. I mean, the resume piece is super impressive. And if you tie that and teach the words, teach the vocabulary, teach the org structures, and then add in one of them digital certs or knowledge, a knowledge piece on the back end, we're getting them in. We're going to get them into that field. And then once we get them in, then it's all right. Phase 2, let's build your network. Let's start to talk to somebody in your exact same position at Onnit, or whoever you want to work for, whatever the longevity company is or supplement company. And then we start to build the network there horizontally. And then we try to take that person into a lateral move into the company they want to be in. And lately, certainly, the job market is still really strong. And there's a lot of discussion around there about how it might soften and this and that. Industry-wise, it might soften. I don't know. I feel like we're in a very good job market for degree free, just to be completely.
Yeah, absolutely. We totally are. I had the pleasure and privilege to be on with the chief economist at ZipRecruiter last week, and that was Jobs Day, where we kind of went over some of the jobs numbers. And while a lot of people that listen to this podcast, like, it sucks, guys, like the job search process sucks. It's, like, something's got to be done about it. We recognize that. That being said, for whatever it's worth, the job market has never been better. There are 2 open roles for every 1 job seeker out there. And that's just the numbers. Yes, exactly what you kind of were starting to say. Yes, there's maybe some softening in some sectors right now, just the data. I think it's 11/10 or 11/11 that we're having this conversation. There's tech layoffs everywhere. But that doesn't mean that the job market in general is bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with the sentiment that we are in, and I think it's going to last. I mean, I know inflation is crazy, but I think this job market is going to continue, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity. And if you do it right, if you build that network, if you're not afraid of lateral moves, everything doesn't always have to be a promotion. And we went through that a lot with our vets. Sometimes, and this is the org structure decision. Sometimes you'll get in and you'll have like a field marketing position or a field sales position with a very small company, and you're out there selling some, maybe some services or whatever. And then you look at an inside sales role at, pick any at Salesforce. We've been talking about Salesforce, or at ServiceNow, or at what. Even go out of tech. Look at Boeing or whatever. Anywhere you want to look. An inside sales person from a monetary perspective sometimes will just, their on target earnings are ridiculous. It could be 150K right off the bat. So, you have to keep an open mind. And that's something we preach diligently to any vet that we talk to. Don't look at, because they're so fixated on that chain of command. I'm a senior airman. I'm a staff sergeant. I'm not going to go take a role as a senior airman. Like, no, that's not how it works here, dude. No, you are a very valuable human being. Let's get you to where you need to be. Do not look at titles. Look at, one, can you network better? Is there more to offer at this company? Is it getting you closer to, from med sales, from CPAP sales to longevity? You got to look at your career journey as not necessarily linear. Could be a non-linear, all over the place go, but we're going to get you to where you want to be. And when we do, you got 20 more years after that to just enjoy life. So, that's an obstacle for a lot of the vets. They come in and they're intimidated by the org structures. They're intimidated by corporate language, and they'll sit in on somebody's call and they're talking ROI and margin gearing and it's just like, hang on, I can explain all this nonsense super easily to you, and I'll even relate it in terms that you'll understand. And then you got it. Don't be intimidated by this stuff. So we break that intimidation factor. We teach the vocabulary. We look at the org structures, and then we start to take a look at the entry points based off of what they want to do, where they want to be, whether it's industry or role specific. If it's marketing, then you got a lot of different entry points. If it's a specific industry, let's get you as close as we can to that industry. If it's soft skill piece, well, we know operations and logistics is, if you don't necessarily, want to, we'll get you over in that operations and logistics side of the house, and we'll get you in there. So it's a process, but I think it's more fun than, doing it the traditional way. To be completely honest, I think it's more rewarding. I think it's more emotionally satisfying. And then on the back half of it, I know, now I don't want to say degree free, but I know more people with degrees and degree free folks that either are not doing anything related to their degree or have had no degree at all, that are more, and like you said at the beginning of the show, success is such a wide, I know successful people that make $30 an hour and they freaking love they don't want to do anything else, period. And they get to go and they, whatever their pastime is, they play whatever sport on the side, or they hunt, it's whatever they do. They absolutely love their lives. And then I have people that are just, they got into the finance industry. They moved their way to New York. They're working 50 hours, 60, 70 hours a week. It's like, but they love it. Like, that's their thing. Like, they love that. So they've gotten there. So the definition of success is very, very different for everybody, as you mentioned earlier. But I know more people that are successful that are degree free or not using their degree at all than I know that got a degree and they're in that field, and they're, and the ones that I do, they're the ones that, it's like, I know a couple doctors that are very happy being, one's a pediatrician. My cousin's he's a oncologist. They're super happy, but that's what they wanted to do for the, there is a path for degrees. Like, I get it, but I'll tell you what, for those two, I know 20 that are thrilled with life, that have a random degree that means nothing to what they're doing, or no degree at all.
Yeah, totally. And it's the same experience for me as well. One of the things that I did want to touch on is we're talking about that alphabet soup, knowing your vocabulary, like that's so important because I feel like, we're also used to understanding each other, right? When we communicate, we're both speaking English right now.
Yep.
And when you go into an environment where that person is speaking the same language that you are, like, and they start just rattling off exactly what, like OKRs, KPIs, exactly what you said, ROI, it's very easy to shrink into yourself and just be like, I'm stupid. Like I don't know what is going on here. And, I personally can't stress it enough about how empowering it is to just learn that vocabulary. And then if you don't know that vocabulary too, like just ask, right?
Yeah, don't be intimidated.
Exactly.
I cannot agree more. It is because I mean, I've seen it enough now in the corporate world where sometimes, the knowledge is power thing is real and people will feel more powerful based on what they know sometimes. And they'll use, there's some egos out there you're going to deal with just like in the real world, narcissism and egos, and they'll use that, let's call it vocabulary or language knowledge base to intimidate people. And they'll come in and purposefully, but we need the metrics of success, blah, blah, blah. And they'll go through this whole spiel. Don't be intimidated. Don't give up. Don't feel that what they're saying took, and I'll tell them this, but it's like, don't feel that what they are talking about right now is because they have, a communications degree from, wherever, university of whatever. And that's why they're so smart. No, they know this because they got a degree. They got an entry-level job. They probably don't use their degree, but they've learned the language over the past X amount of years. And for our vets that are coming in, they're coming in, I equate it to take any sales manager that's out there or bring an engineer in, the smartest engineer you have in the tech space, and put them on a mission with us in Afghanistan. You want to talk about intimidated? They aren't going to know a damn thing you're even saying, let alone what you're about to do. What about, so it's the same thing. You just got to temper in the intimidation a little bit, learn the language. And we do that. We do a lot of especially in specific industries where they have their own acronyms. Tech is one of them. SFDC is one. Salesforce.com. That's one we teach them right away. You'll hear somebody say it's Salesforce. It's a tool, CRM tool. CRM. Okay, here, this is CRM. Right. Yeah, it's like shit. So you got to go back and you got to do, but that is an intimidating barrier to entry. And you're absolutely right that you got to, be a therapist a little bit and help people get past that.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Just to kind of wrap up, are there any resources or books where people could learn a little bit more about how to become effective marketers, to doing what you do? And then also for those people transitioning out of the military, there's you mentioned Wounded Warrior, USO. Yeah. I'm sure that most vets know of those. Is there anything else?
Yeah, no. So so the good news is for vets, there's the awareness piece. There's a lot of opportunities out there for vets to get help. But like I said, some of the help isn't necessarily help that they want. There are your local transition office, your military transition office, if you're coming off of active duty. They're amazing. They are wonderful individuals. Career guidance and transition advice that they give is great. Utilize them. The USO, a lot of the organizations, AMVETS, the American League, there's a lot of those organizations out there that will most certainly help you in whatever direction you want to go. Nothing substitutes for your own, let's call it excitement for your life. You gotta come out. You gotta take things, a bit into your own hands and make a plan, and then from that plan work backwards into that role. And a lot of those resources that vets have will help them get from point A to B, but they're not going to help them come up with a plan, a life plan, a goal. This is what I want to. So I would go into those organizations with an idea of what I want to do, at least at a high level, and then start to build that network. And that's part of your network. That's an initial network for you as you come out of the military and transition out, are those support agencies. And having them and their secondary contacts is certainly something that's going to help you move. Feel free, look me up on LinkedIn as well. Just my name. Send me a note. It's the best way to get a hold of me. If you have any questions or need anything from me from a vet perspective, I'm all for it. And marketing, from a marketing perspective, it is like almost like the digital certs these days for marketing. There's podcasts. There's marketing outside of the grain, or marketing against the grain. There's a great podcast that's out there. There's online marketing certs. There is it's an unfillable well of stuff. It's almost overwhelming, but it's out there. If marketing is the way you want to go, I would take a quick step back and start with almost the hierarchy of marketing and see what you want to do inside of that hierarchy. Is it digital? Is it social media marketing? They're very, very different. So do a search, take a look, figure out where you want to be in marketing. And then from there, do the double click. If you want to, focus on social media, which is super popular these days, great. Okay. Go figure out how to use Google AdWords. Go figure out how to do, just dig into that specific area. But there's so many resources available right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things that's difficult for people that are just trying to break into an industry. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, I think I want to be in marketing. And it's like, what part of marketing? What's so funny, kind of, when I was first hired at my first job out of college, or maybe my second job, I was it was a big regional bank. And so it was a new hire orientation. And I'm sitting across from this young kid, maybe a few years younger than me. And he's like a math major, and he's doing an internship for the bank, but he has to go through the new hire orientation as well. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Like, he's like, oh, I'm in the marketing department. And I'm just like, at the time, I had no idea. You know what I mean? It makes sense to me now. But like, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, that's not like, you're not like storyboarding ads, and you know what I mean? Like how are you supposed to be like selling me, whatever financial instruments, right? And he's just like, no, like the stats, like metrics. Yep. And I was like, I don't even know what you're saying, man. Like,
and that complexity lends itself to that overwhelmed feeling that we get a lot for veterans when they come out. And it is more than okay if you have zero idea. We always say, if you have zero idea what you want to be when you grow up after the military, that's fine. That is not an issue at all. Try to find something that you're interested in. And everybody has something, whether it's an industry, whether it is a specific role, whether it's a personality trait, whatever it is. And then everything is working backwards. And I know we've touched on this a couple of times, but everything is kind of working backwards from whatever that sense of happiness is. And it changes. A lot of times we see vets that have this would make me happy. And then we get them to it in 2, 3, 4 years. And they're like, this sucks. It's a journey, man. Like it's cool. Just embrace it. Let's do something else. There's no right or wrong answers. The difference between school and that process, or higher education, that process, is what you've done in the last 4 years is going to be infinitely relevant to everything you want to do in the future. Whereas sometimes those 4, 5, 6 years as a degree just aren't. So this is something where, don't worry if you maybe wanted to get into sales and you realize that quota being strapped to your back is just too much for me. Like I can't work to that number every quarter and it's just too stressful. No problem. But that's no big deal. That sales experience you have, infinitely transferable. We got you covered. Like so don't be too worried. One, if you don't necessarily know what the end game is. The key is to get in the game. That's the absolute key metric to pulling the proverbial trigger. Just get in the game. Get in the game. We'll get you. We'll build. You'll have the network, the subject matter understanding to get where you want to be very quickly, soon. And even if you don't, we'll figure it out as you go. Get in the game. Get in the game. So that is something we harp on. If we see a lot of folks that don't necessarily know exactly what they want, and that's fine. It's completely fine. You're actually in a better position if you're not stuck, in whatever 101 course for 2 hours every Wednesday. Just get out there and do, some work. It works out better.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. But yes, Milo, thank you so much for taking the time and honestly kind of spitting these truth bullets out at me. I love it. I have one more question before I ask where people could find you.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, you talked about within Dell, you talked about individual development plans.
Yeah.
Real quickly, could you just kind of touch on what those were? I put a note here and I forgot to ask you earlier.
Yeah. No problem. So it's becoming more popularized. It's and like I said, Dell uses them a lot. I don't want to say exclusively. I don't know the right word to use right now, but it is absolutely imperative to your next step, to putting yourself in a position to get to where you want to be professionally inside of Dell. And it's that way in a lot of other orgs now. So these individual development plans are multifaceted. It's a multifaceted look inside of your current career and your aspirations. So here's what you've done so far, career-wise. Here's where you are. Here's what you've done. Here's where you want to go. And it's a moving target. It never has to be the same, but it's documenting it. And it's documenting it for a very specific purpose. And that purpose is for your team, your immediate supervisor, your SVP to help you on that journey. If the company really cares about your growth and development, you're always going to have these, let's call them pro in place. We use that word. They're at the role they love. That's what they want to do. We have people that do events. They love these freaking events. They're like, I can't think of anything more exciting than a trade show. We're going to go surrounded by 10,000 people. We're going to do this stuff. Amazing. Your IDP says you are a pro in place. How do we continue to make this role as valuable as possible for you? That's your individual development plan. Enroll. Most folks will either want to progress either into management, senior management, or into a completely different role. Let's call it inside of marketing, inside of their division, or they want to go completely outside. And to maintain top talent these days, you have to give you have to offer that opportunity to your employees, or they're just going to hop. They're going to go from one to another to another. So this IDP or individual development plan allows visibility into what you want to do. And we've had multiple marketers that wanted to be in engineering. And we said, all right, as part of your IDP, we want to get you with the tuition assistance program. Let's get this, whatever, paid for if you need it. Let's get, or let's make these connections for you. Let's connect the dots for you. I would suggest that even outside of, a formalized IDP plan, if your company doesn't have one, you always have a personal IDP. And you're mapping out, and it's, like I said, it is ever changing. And at one point you might want to be a logistics coordinator. And then 2 weeks later, you dabble in that, you do a stretch goal and you realize that's not what you want. You want to take a look more at, a programming role or whatever, sales position, whatever it is. That's fine, but it's a living document. The IDP is a living document that's your own. that's made to, one, keep you on track, but then also allow, and it's something too, you have to socialize. An IDP isn't good if it's just internal. It has to be internal to you, but it also has to be shared with, your direct supervisor, your peers. Your peers will help you. Your skip level, 2 up, whomever. But it's a great source of truth to have.
Awesome. Thank you. And you mentioned already LinkedIn is a good place to find you. Where else can people find you? Is there anywhere else, or is that the best place?
The absolute best place is LinkedIn. I check it all the time because we're on there. We do a lot of ads and a lot of advertising. So I got the old LinkedIn, whatever, the gold or whatever.
Right.
So that's the best place to make contact. But then also it's just my email is literally my name @Dell.com. So if you have any questions, if you're a vet or if you're anybody, I mean, it doesn't have to be a vet, but if you have any questions about marketing or tech or transitioning from a vet or non-vet into the marketing space, just reach out. I'd love to send you a note and help out anywhere I can.
Absolutely. And we'll put links to everything that we talked about and everything in our show notes, degreefree.co/podcast. And Milo, thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciated it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ryan. This is great. Keep doing what you're doing. Looking forward to being a fan as you go forward. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.